San Francisco, Oakland, and basically all the Bay Area, their attitude towards small businesses, landlords is just terrible. Now, I get what some of you guys are going to say. Oh, landlords are evil. They shouldn't, some might even say landlords shouldn't even exist. And a lot of people are saying that, small landlords are fine and large landlords are not fine because like the big boys like BlackRock, Blackstone, they buy up a lot of houses in the US and they jack up the price. And there's even whole entire communities in the whole entire country where it's just for renting only, not even for sale. Not to mention trying to buy a house now as like a Gen Z or a millennial is basically impossible. But this is going to absolutely destroy the San Francisco situation and the Oakland situation because these two cities are basically right next to each other, right? And here's the thing. The reason why the Bay Area has so much wealth and why the wealth is literally disappearing is the absurd laws for some of the renters and landlords. Now, here's the thing. Of course, for the tenant, it's great, right? 3 years, no paying rents. But for the landlords, they are done. And we all know what happens when real estate investors and real estate construction companies leave a city. You end up like a city like Detroit, where there's no progression, there's no progress, there's no construction projects, and it's just sad every single day. So what this going on is there's a 69-year-old individual says she is owed more than $60,000 in rent money and doubts she'll ever get it back. What's really crazy is this person is retired, small landlord, probably has like 2 properties. One of the properties is rented out. They're retired. And in my opinion, you should be able to pay rent. If you can't pay rent or can't afford like a very, very nice area, go somewhere else. Can't pay the property tax, can't pay the insurance, and can't pay the mortgage in the future if she doesn't get this rent money. And this is why you're seeing a whole sea of foreclosed properties, not only in the Bay Area, but also Seattle, which I'll get into because like I said before, if you want a city to prosper, I don't care what you say, you're going to have a lot of big real estate investors. Now, people who go to the Bay Area, for example, to buy real estate and to rent them out as a business, none of them are doing that. Everyone is picking places like Miami, Tampa, Las Vegas, these areas. The Bay Area absolutely hates landlords, and landlords are sick of this. Many landlords in San Francisco and Oakland are just pretty much foreclosing their properties. They don't want to live here, especially Oakland. With how bad the crime is getting in Oakland, many real estate investors who wanted to invest are now pulling out. And we're seeing Oakland's downtown being a complete ghost town. Seriously, guys. 3 years. Imagine a person paying 3 years in property tax, insurance, maintenance, and many, many more. And the person could just live there for 3 years without paying a single dime in rent. It's absolutely insane. And we're actually seeing this happening in a lot of left-leaning cities. It's not just in the Bay Area. It's not just in Oakland. It's also in Seattle and many of the heavily left-leaning cities. Look at Seattle, right? Nightmare tenants. You have people just living in a lot of these homes, and if you want to evict them because they're not paying rent, it's $20,000 in legal fees, and it'll take a year. That's crazy, okay? And the landlord, pretty much, a lot of these guys aren't your big-time landlords. Some of these guys have like a townhouse, and they're just renting out like the top or bottom floor. Some of these guys maybe own like 2 condos or maybe 1 or 3 houses. They're just trying to rent it out, make some side money, and they've put a lot of investment. Small landlords, guys, aren't evil. I know what some of you guys might be saying. It's the big corporate ones that really make a lot of people mad. The small landlords, a lot of them are retired. People trying to put their kids through college. Passive investing, passive income, it's not happening, right? Seattle, Oakland, San Francisco, some of the biggest rental markets are now underwater. We're seeing a lot of these landlords foreclosing on properties, selling their properties, and they don't even want these properties. In fact, some properties, if we try to sell it to someone and you say there's a tenant in there, it's not getting sold. It's just like New York, right? In New York, it's the same thing, but not as extreme. If you want to sell like a property, but there's a tenant, chances are you're going to have to sell it for a lower price, a slight lower price. And that's the reason why, right? It's a massive headache, especially if you're a landlord there and you meet the wrong tenant. And all this really just boils down to one thing. There's no longer real estate investing. In fact, the Bay Area real estate value is the fastest dropping in the nation. And the valuations for a lot of the buildings are down so much. And when landlords can't make any money from rent at the bare minimum, they're just going to foreclose on the property. Some buildings are even experiencing that the mortgage that they took out, the debt, is worth 2 to 3 times more than the actual value of the property they bought a few years ago. And at that point, you might as well just foreclose the property, especially if you're not getting any sort of rental income. And you're also seeing new construction in places like San Francisco's metro area dropping at an all-time low. In the past 2 quarters of this year, so 180 days, we've only gotten 200 new condos and apartments built in San Francisco, whereas just a few years ago it was averaging at almost 2,000. And lastly, you also have the Airbnb failures. Airbnb listings are sparking some pretty crazy housing fears because Airbnb listings in San Francisco and Oakland has fallen to the all-time low. The amount of people booking hotel rooms in San Francisco, for example, right across the bridge, is 660,000 rooms back in 2018. Now it's only 400,000 rooms. So the amount of rooms being booked is down 30 to 40%. Airbnb listings are also saying that they used to have out of 30 nights, 27 nights being booked out. Now it's only 2 to 3 nights, and if they're lucky, maybe 7 or 8 nights. So we're seeing a massive Airbnb bust for some of these biggest cities, and this is going the same thing with Seattle. And we're seeing this massive real estate crisis, especially in the office tech sector as well. We're going to move towards the office area because these mega landlords are also foreclosing alongside with some of the smaller landlords. So it's not just the smaller landlords getting sick and tired of San Francisco, Bay Area, Oakland, Seattle, but it's also some of the biggest tech companies. And some of the biggest landlords in the world are absolutely furious that, one, these valuations of the buildings are down so low, and 2, the city never really addresses the core issue, right? High homelessness, high crime, very, very high shoplifting incidences. And you're seeing a lot of these companies have vacated hundreds of thousands of square feet of space. Even little Chime has decreased by 35,000 square feet of office space. Block has vacated almost 500,000 office space. This is just the beginning, guys. This isn't fully updated. We got huge hotels, huge malls, Nordstrom vacated 500,000 square feet of office space. Slack has gone, Airbnb is downgrading, and there's more and more vacancies as time goes on. It's getting worse every single day. And like I said before, it's really down to street conditions. San Francisco just basically looks like this 24/7. It's not exactly the city that you want to be in, and it's almost like a third world city at this point, right? You got just tents everywhere, homeless everywhere. The city just genuinely doesn't care. It looks like this at night. Do you really want to walk through this at night? Probably not. And I guarantee you, everyone's going to move to San Francisco if they clean up the streets, but they never clean up the streets. It's always going to look like this, right? It's constant, and it's really, really sad that the city just doesn't do anything to help. And what's worse is the city doesn't really address some of the biggest issues. Let's see what happens. I like San Francisco. I like the real estate there, but right now the real estate is complete doo-doo.